Hello, and welcome to Book Circle. I'm Earl Wyenberg. This time we will continue our reading of The Demon Priest by Jim Burroughs. William, grandson of Bishop Allen, is following in his grandfather's footsteps and meeting the demon priest in dream. He has also recently met with a pixie woman named Fern. And so, shouldn't I share my name with you? Ooh, Fern shimmied all over. Share a name? The same? Both? How intimate. And on a first meeting, you are a brazen one. Aren't you pretty? No, I meant, I was asking, confirming that I shouldn't confide my name to you. Not that we should share it together. Sam stepped in. Yes, more or less, that would be best. You aren't here bodily, in full. Your name will have less power than had you walked here. Still, it is wise to go by a nom de rev, a use name, what she called a calling. It should be something you are comfortable with, but nothing too you, chosen on a whim. Oh, I like that, said the youngster. Turning to the pixie woman, he made a sweeping bow. A pleasure to meet you, Fern. You may call me Whim. And Whim he was for the next few years. He took quickly to lucid dreaming and exploring the land of dream. The church that his grandfather had dreamt of was still across the street, but the village and the west country surrounding it were much more whimsical, for lack of a better word. Much more whimsical than the place Allen had known, frequented by fanciful folk such as Ned and Fern. The graveyard behind the church was a dark and eerie place. Most of the cars on the roads tended to be vintage sorts from the start of the century, or occasionally futuristic vehicles seen only on magazine covers back in the home workaday world. Then, one day, the pub moved. It was still the White Hart. The church was still across the square from it. The square still featured the Buttercross, but now they were all in a larger town on the banks of a broad, dark river. Though Whim had explored the village and its surrounds, traveling more broadly in dream than his grandfather had, the realm was huge and he didn't recognize the pub's new environs. Sam, however, recognized the black river that flowed through dream into the half-lands and beyond. What happened, Sam? Why are we here? It's probably your new doing, Whim. Allen, your grandfather, was content to come to the pub for a connection to his ancestral roots, a quiet pub in Old Whitcomb, and to talk theology, ethics, and history with me. He wasn't looking for more. You're more curious, drawn to the fantastic hereabouts. That brought us Ned, Fern, Dunwhittle, and the rest. My guess is that you've moved us here to the Black, where the other realms are closer, and encounters with travelers from those realms are more likely. You mean we might meet witch-walkers here? Yes, the heart is much closer to the paths here. So, will I meet more like you here? Like me? I doubt that you'll encounter another Gregory. I've been trying ever since I was ordained to draw them out, to tempt them to dream, if you will, without success. Others of the fallen? Perhaps. Most of us are bound, though. So no angels or demons? Well, not ones that you would want to meet. Oh? There are still some of what you might call demons loose in otherworldly realms. The forces of the one known as She Who Was Once a Dragon, or the false Rahab, are still abroad, and from time to time venture out of her realm to spread her influence. I do not name her here, even in my dreams. At present, she is relatively contained. Still, she may return. How mysterious all this sounds. Not naming names makes it sound so sinister. Let us concentrate on happier encounters, and sometime when I am in your world, perhaps I will supply you some of the details. Now, Would you like to see some of the sights of this town the pub has shifted to? Yes, please, uncle, thank you. And so the lad spent many a night in his teenage years dreaming of strange folk in strange lands, at times in the company of a reformed demon. Compared to that, his daily life in what he still thought of as the real world seemed rather tame and mundane. Nonetheless, it did center more and more on the church, the clergy, and what he had come to feel was equal parts personal calling and family tradition. Discussing theology, ethics, and philosophy on a regular basis with a demon priest kept those topics on his mind. It really wasn't much of a surprise when he first minored in religion and then joined the seminary after college, nor when he sought and obtained ordination into the priesthood. Father Samuel didn't involve himself much in William's choice of profession or his theological education. He did, though, attend William's graduations and ordinations, always sitting quietly in the back, keeping an eye on first the boy and then the young man, as he had promised his friend. William was a very serious student, and while he continued to dream in the land of dream, it happened less often once he was on the path to priesthood. Father William took precedence over whim. This only became more true after William met and married Sarah Russell and started raising a family. The roles of husband, father, and parish priest filled William's days, nights, and dream time. Years passed, then turned into decades. Still, once in a while, Sam would see Whim at the pub, and he seemed to be doing well enough. Then hell broke loose. Not all hell, as the expression goes, just a few demons, the one called the Dark Prince, chased by Titania, Queen of Faerie, and shortly thereafter a few dozen of his minions, imps, demons, and hobs. Titania teamed up with a number of superheroes for the crisis known as the Demon Wars. The first masked vigilantes and metahuman superheroes had started showing up around the time when William was born, just before the Second World War. Super soldier programs and other ill-advised science projects had caused a whole second wave to emerge in his teenage years. Naturally, along with the superheroes, there had been supervillains. One of them, an anarchist called Void, had started a cult, the Rising Dark, and they managed to tear a hole in the fabric of the universe, the veil between realms, through which the Dark Prince and Titania had flown. Up until that time, most churches and other religious institutions had treated metahumans as theologically neutral, focusing on the ethics of their deeds rather than on their very natures and existence as morally and religiously significant. Homilies like "with great power comes great responsibility" emphasized the duties of those with great gifts. Of course, there had always been a few who saw metahumans as a gift to, or more often a curse leveled upon, humanity, but they were the minority, like disheveled cranks warning that the end is near, or fanatics decrying jazz or rock music as the work of the devil. The Dark Prince, with his bat-like wings, horns, tail, skin like obsidian barely containing the burning magma beneath, and his grinning, cackling, animalistic minions, changed all that. Their efforts to open gateways for Lilith, or the gigantic demon king Chernobog, to break into the world from the nether realms, were seen as having deep apocalyptic and eschatological import. The lines between good and evil, dark and light, seemed clear-cut to most, but not William, not Whim. Whim's Uncle Samuel, the Gregory Shamsiel, was a demon, a fallen angel, a priest, and friend of the late Bishop Whitcomb, Whim's own grandfather. Sam had helped raise him and was one of his first role models, an inspiration to the priesthood. Whim had known pukas, fairies, and hobs for 30 years or more. Uncle Samuel, Father Gregory, had warned him about Lilith, she who was once a dragon, and the threat she posed to many realms, both earthly and other. How was William, Reverend Whitcomb, who had once been Whim, to reconcile his experience with the emerging dualistic theology? It troubled him throughout the demon wars. even after Titania, her Fey allies, and the superheroes had defeated the Dark Prince, turned back Lilith and the Demon King, he struggled. After all, he had met Ned, Fern, Dunwhittle, and the rest only in dreams. How was he to know what to believe? He came up with a plan. That night he left word with Betty the barmaid, and 3 days later he received a visitor at his church office. "Excuse me, Father Whitcomb?" asked a lanky, rustic-looking fellow standing in his doorway, broad-brimmed hat in hand. "Yes," he replied. "I'm Walker. I knew your grandfather. I hear that you are looking for me?" "Yes, I am. Please come in. Have a seat. Can I offer you something? Water? Tea?" "No, but thank you," replied Walker as he took his seat. "How may I help you?" "They say that you walked my grandfather to the land of dreams, that you can walk the paths between worlds." "Yes, I've been doing so for a very long time, or over many years." I was hoping that you could do the same for me." "Take you to dream?" "And other realms, if you would." "I see. May I ask why?" "I need to see a few things for myself, to verify things that I think I know." Walker nodded and smiled. "You look a lot like him, you know, your grandfather. The same look in the eyes. When would you want to go on this journey? How long would you want it to be?" As to the first, soon, within the next few days. The latter, well, I cannot afford to be gone more than a couple of days. I have responsibilities to my parish and my family, you see." Walker nodded. William continued, "I understand that time can pass differently in different realms. Would it be possible to plan such a journey so that I could know in advance how long I would be gone? Could we schedule it so that I left on a Friday and returned late-ish Sunday? That way I could explain my absence as a weekend retreat." "Yes, but if we are precise about that, you could find that it took us quite a while to achieve that precision. For you, a good deal more time might be taken." "Principle of which walking uncertainty?" "I'm sorry?" "Oh, silly reference to contemporary science. The notion that uncertainty is conserved, that the more you know about where something is, the less you know about where it is going. That sort of thing. I'm sorry. You must live with a whole different understanding of time, space, and physics." "Quite all right. Yes, there are certain principles not unlike that involved, though I'm not sure that I would explain it in that manner." "That's fine. The uncertainty from my point of view is fine. What I'm concerned with is how it looks from here. I'd like for people to not wonder or worry about where I've gone and when I'll get back." "Yes, that has caused trouble for witch-walkers in the past. Where would you like to meet me?" "Your home?" "No, I've never known how to tell my wife that my dreams often happen in a real place and that Uncle Samuel is a demon. My grandfather died in the madhouse over such things. Now that we've all seen demonic forces on the evening news, I could probably get her and others to believe that my demon and perhaps my dreams are real. I'm just not sure that I could convince anyone that I was sane for trusting him." "Heavens, I'm not entirely sure I do trust him, or myself." "And that is the purpose of your trip?" The priest nodded. "That's about it. Afterwards, I hope I can figure out how to talk to her about it. But for the moment, I want her to think of my trip as just a retreat. It is, after all, a retreat, just a little otherworldly." With that, he sighed hugely and shrugged. "No more of a lie than the dissembling of an elf," chuckled Walker. "Wonderful. Perhaps I've been associating with demons and fey folk too long." "It does affect one. For myself, I tend to trust fey friends and the like. They have a broader experience and can tolerate more uncertainty. Well, until Friday." Chapter 8. Clashes. We all got into Selina's car, TC, the kid, the father, and me. TC sat up front next to Selina, holding some sort of metallic widget in his hand, the thing from the kid's little bundle. Glancing from it to the road up ahead, he directed us to the warehouses around Waterside, to a place only a couple of blocks from the place we'd been kidnapped to, where he had her pull over. I'm pretty sure my tracker is in that next block, the warehouse on the right, he said. Then from here on, we should go on foot, said Father Gregory. I agree, said Selina. I don't know everyone's abilities, said the priest. How would you proceed if it was just the outcast, Selina? The kid's our best scout. I'd send him ahead. If I'd planned this all in advance, I'd want someone with really good senses up on top of the warehouse across the street, preferably with someone like Luca who could guard them. I'd have a second wave following behind the kid to cover him. TC's good with locks, security, and surveillance gear. Him and a fighter is the second wave, probably. I'd either go with TC or guard our eyes on the roof, depending on who I had for the other position. I see. Well, we could wait for you to bring in backup, or we could station Lee on the roof. I can get her there, and then I could take one of your guardian roles. We could combine strategies. You and Lee could start on the roof. I don't have Luca and Thomas, but Hawk and Snipe are still mobile, and they could relieve you. Lee could stay with them, and you could move forward to join us, if you're good at getting on and off roofs quietly. That appears sound. Selina pulled a couple of burner phones with wireless headsets out of the glove compartment and handed them to us. Hotwire, one of our hackers, has stealthed these for us. They're marginally legal. Press this button to join our group call. Once we were on the call, we all got out of the car. The father took off his suit jacket and removed the white thingy from his collar. We looked around, and the kid was nowhere to be seen. Father Gregory put his arm around my waist and asked, "Are you ready?" I nodded, not at all sure I was ready, and kind of hunkered down. I could see that his hand turned red, and I closed my eyes. He jumped. I heard something flapping in the wind, and after a few moments, there was a sort of jarring thump, and we landed on the roof. When I opened my eyes, his hand was just a regular old hand, and he let me go. "You two in place?" asked Selina over the phone. "Yes." "Me too," I added. "Let us know if you see anything." "I will," I answered. The father and I stood next to some utility shack on the roof and started watching the warehouse. We couldn't see much. Once in a while I spotted TC or Selina in the shadows, but I never saw the kid. There was a guy on the roof of their warehouse, walking around from side to side, stopping to look each way, but I'm pretty sure he didn't see us. The shadows around the utility shack were really deep, some of the deepest I ever saw. After a while, Selina reported, "TC stopped one of the cameras from moving. The kid's gone in a second-story window. We're going to follow up the fire escape. Watch the guy on the roof for us." "He just left your side of the building. He's in the front. You should have a couple of minutes." "Thank you, Father." I saw a ladder being pulled down from the fire escape and then spotted TC and Selina next to it. He started up. Then the guard on the roof stopped and turned back to look the way he'd just come. "Damn." I'd never heard the father swear before. I turned to look at him as he backed into the deepest shadow and disappeared. "The roof guy's headed back to your side," I was telling Selina, when someone just appeared out of the shadows, walking up behind the guard. He reached out. The guard spun around and started to collapse into a heap. The figure caught him and laid him down on the roof. "I've dealt with him," came the father's voice over the phone. "Good," a new voice replied. "We'll land in just a moment." I heard some flapping behind me and turned to see a winged woman in an Outcast t-shirt landing on the roof. Her wings weren't separate like you see on angels, you know. Instead, her arms had great big feathers connecting to them. Once she'd landed, she sort of folded them in to lie flat against her arms. "Hi, I'm Hawk," she said. I just kind of stared at her like a dummy. She was really pretty, but, well, not completely human. Her eyes were way big and slanty, and her ears real pointy. Both her hair and eyes were reddish brown. "Selina said you need a spotter and backup." I gave myself a little shake and managed to say, "Yeah, thanks. Snipe will be right along with the artillery." "Oh, good." I didn't have to wait long to learn who Snipe was. It was only about another really long, embarrassing silence before someone climbed up over the back wall and onto the roof. This one was really short and broad. She was dressed the same as Hawk, in camo cargo pants and a t-shirt, though hers had arms, she not having wings, you know. "Hey there," she said, and stamped over. "Name's Griselda. You can call me Grizzle or Snipe, depending. Selina asked for Snipe, so I brought my pea-shooter." With that, she unslung this huge rifle she had strapped on her back and started unfolding stuff. A built-in pair of legs, collapsible stock, magazines, and like that. It was one of those guns with the really big barrels with a boxy, lumpy thing on the front, the kind that mean real business. "I see you noticed my stature," she said as I stood there staring at her. "I'm part human, which makes me kind of tall and willowy for a dwaro." Tall and willowy. That's what she said. I'd never met an adult woman that short and wide in my life. I must have looked pretty stupid because she just grinned and laughed. She tapped her earpiece and said over the call, "Selina, Hawk and I are in place. We're watching the joint across the street?" "Yes, we have friends with us on this outing, a priest and his assistant. They were up there when you are. He's moved forward, but she should still be there." "I am," I managed. Snipe said, "Yeah." "Good, she can brief you." Hawk moved over to the wall around the edge of the roof. "I see someone in black on the roof and a couple going up the fire escape," she said. "I'm on the roof," said the father. "There are people on the top roof on your side of the building, Selina. The ones on the next roof down seem to be mostly at the other end of the building. Everyone looks to be near the walls on one side or another. Seems to be a warehouse all open in the middle. I think I had a glimpse of the kid." "Probably," came the kid's voice on the call. "And yeah, all open. You all risk being spotted if you come in. I'll plant a couple of hot wires cameras and get out. Going silent." "So, church lady, what's the pitch here?" asked Snipe. "You mean me?" I asked. She nodded, and I continued. "Kidnappings. The bad guys are wearing t-shirts with a devil head on them. I guess that spells outcasts and the demon priest to a lot of people who ought to know better. We think they're being held down there. The kid and TC traced him somehow. We're supposed to be lookouts or backup while the kid, TC, and Selina check it out. Father Samuel's moving forward too. He says we do this really carefully, just surveillance for now." "Huh," she said. "Subtle and careful ain't what I'm known for. Oh well. So what's next, after the careful?" "I'm not sure. Maybe we call our friends at Falcon. Maybe we handle it. That part's not what I'm known for, handling it." "You'll do okay, Lee," said Hawk. Somewhere, someone was thinking, what does she know about it? "First 2 cameras in place. Next one's the hard one. Going silent," said the kid. "Hawk, do you have eyes on him?" asked Selina. "I'll have to leave the roof." "Do it." I turned to see her spread her arms, her wings, whatever, and slowly rise off the roof, like a kite with someone playing out the string. I've no idea how tiny little wings like that hold her up. But calling her Hawk made sense. She started floating or gliding on the currents in the air. What do you call them? Thermals. Riding the thermals. Yeah, except she could do it without moving forward. Maybe kite would be better. "I can see him. Keeping an eye on him will run the risk of being spotted, though," I heard her say over the phone. "Be careful, Hawk." "There was a second guard on the roof," said the father. "He's sleeping now. They have radios. Someone will notice when he doesn't respond at some point." "Hotwire, this is Selina. You on?" "Yes." "What can you see on the cameras?" "There's a bunch of cubicle plastic tents, maybe medical isolation. At least half a dozen guards, probably a dozen or more. At least 3 people in hospital scrubs, lots of equipment, crates, 2 cars, a van, and what looks like an ambulance." "We're going to have to bring in Falcon, Father," said Selina. "Or Unicorn," muttered Snipe. "Nah, we already have Falcon involved. We don't need them squabbling," replied Selina. "You just try to keep a low profile." "Right, I'm so good at that." I could see Snipe pat that huge gun of hers. "Well, try." "Sure, boss." "Behind you," whispered a voice. I turned just in time to see them coming. Ninjas or terrorists in those hoods, baklavas or balalaikas or whatever they call them, all dressed in black. Grizz, I said, my voice all squeaking. Damn, growled Snipe. She set down the gun and charged. They charged. Someone screamed. We're burned, came the kid's sharp whisper. Fall back, ordered Selina. Cover each other. They're on the roof, said Father Gregory. Dial Falk, I heard Selina say, and then she disappeared from the call. Snipe tackled one of the ninja guys. He tried to dodge or block, but she was barreling down on him so fast they skidded across the roof. I think I saw Hawk swoop down near one of them, but I had my own problems by then. This guy was fast, and he knew what he was doing, some kind of training, and a lot of it. I ducked and dodged, but after a while he got a hold of me. We struggled and squirmed, but I couldn't avoid him. He grabbed me with both hands. Hell, I think he even grabbed me with a leg or knocked my feet aside. I don't know. Fight back, someone said. That made him laugh. I didn't like the laugh. I struggled and got one hand free. I just shoved him quick and hard in the chin, trying to stop his laughing face. I couldn't see his face through the hoodie thing, but something just told me he was sneering at me. He pulled closer, bending my arm back. Now it was just sideways across his chest or neck, trying to hold him back. I really didn't like the look in his laughing eyes. No, said a voice. I pushed really hard, then jerked my hand back. I'd have scratched him good on the face and jaw if it weren't for the hood. I caught it and pulled it crooked on his face. I pushed forward hard with my hand and grabbed him by... It's not the scruff of the neck if you do it in front, and he didn't have lapels. Anyway, I grabbed and pulled. My vision got blurry. It was hard to see him clearly through the blue. I can end you, said a really scary voice. I think his eyes got kind of scared through the glare. I don't know, but his grip loosened and I shoved with both hands. He fell back. Snipe was growling and pummeling one of the ninja guys. She had him by the front of his robe, shirt, with one hand and snarled as she punched him. That other name, Grizzle, it was starting to make sense. Hawk dropped out of the sky on the guy who'd grabbed me, driving her heel into his chest. Selina's calling Falcon, called Hawk. Choppers, you gotta lose the gun. Damn, grumbled Snipe, or Grizzle, and she kicked a ninja guy who was trying to get back up. Hold the fort and watch the church lady. With that, she grabbed her gun and started folding it up as she ran across the roof. By the time she got to the far side, she'd slung it. She didn't stop. She just leapt off the roof, turning to face us, waving. Bang, clang, thump. There was quite a racket from, I guess, the fire escape after that. Hawk pulled off the belt from one of the ninjas and, dropping to one knee, started to tie him up. You okay, church lady? Lee. What? My name's Lee. You okay, Lee? She walked back over and started tying up the guy who'd grabbed me. Last I saw, this guy looked like he had you pretty good. Next time I had a breather, he was lying there waiting for me to drop on him. She shrugged. I guess I got lucky. I was really scared. Right. The father stepped out of the shadows. Are you all right, Lee? I think so. We could leave before Falcon arrives if you need to. No, really, I'm okay, I replied. That's good, said Hawk, and nodded toward the helicopter that was heading down toward us. It wasn't long before a couple of Falcon's special operations troops jumped down from the roof while it hovered. We have orders to secure this roof until the brass can verify the situation, said one of them. If you three could just hold tight until then. Certainly, officer, said Father Gregory. Are any of you armed? The guy asked. Hawk spread her arms and wing feathers, holding her hands open and palms up. She smiled and shrugged. The Falcon guy chuckled a bit. After a moment or two, he continued, They tell me you're a telekinetic. Mostly for flying, replied Hawk. Well, you're listed as probably friendly for this op, so don't spoil it, okay? It went kind of like that for quite a while. Mostly friendly, but real careful all round. And we'll follow Whim and what careful friendliness is like next time.